bodies through June 30, 2027. This meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so by using, it says webinar link below. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technology means. So that is that. Let me call the meeting to order and let me acknowledge those people that are here. So I'm going to read your name and indicate that you're here. Jody Petroselli is here. You're on mute.
Was here.
Okay. Ken Ayers. Ken Ayers is not here. Peter Bean.
Here.
Sarah Contley.
Here.
John Cummings. I don't see John Cummings on the attendance list. Harry Davis.
Here.
Paul DeLay is here.
Here.
Nancy James.
Here.
And I am Ford Spalding, and I am here also. We also have attending the meeting Molly Fitzpatrick, Nora Langone, and Steve Lund so far. First item is to, bear with me. Is the chair's comments. I want to thank our first responders, police and fire, for their service during the last 24 hours, serving the community of Westwood, also the Department of Public Works. You all do a fantastic job, and we thank you for your service. Today's agenda is important for our pathway forward. We will need to confirm the three options we focused on our last meeting: 1, town-owned land behind Starbucks; 2, Deerfield land; 3, current location at 637 High Street. Included is a discussion on that we will have on outreach to abutters and the land behind Starbucks. Today's agenda also has on it a discussion of our understanding of SS1's operational programmatic needs for the department. And I've asked Chief Lund and Assistant Chief McCarthy if he's able to lead that discussion. The purpose is for us to further understand the must-haves that are going to be as part of a fire station. And finally, I want to remind all Westwood residents that this Thursday, January 29 at 7 p.m., we will host a community conversation on our progress update for the future of FS1. And the purpose is to engage residents in finding a resolution for the need to replace FS1 that will lead to yes for the new station. Our current plan is to do that on a monthly basis. First, let me turn to agenda item number 1, which is a discussion and decision on FS1 building site operations. At our last meeting, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we are really focusing right now on 3 options. The first is the land behind Starbucks. The second is going to the land behind the Deerfield land behind the library. And the third is really a fallback looking at our current station. We were given by the selectmen a matrix to fill out. And I don't know if you've all done that matrix or you're focused on it. But I'm just going to toss out this statement and people can accept it or not. I went through it and it didn't lead me to any conclusions. When I was answering it yes or no, it really didn't come to any conclusions that made sense to me. And I wonder if any of you felt the same way. Any comments from the committee? If not,
I didn't particularly find it useful either. I think
us discussing the options that are on the table and, talking to the fire department about the pros and cons gets us much more, valuable information than kind of that, check boxes format, if you will, matrix.
Right.
Anybody else? To me, I agree. It sort of came up with the three options that we're looking at, and I just wanted to confirm that that's what we're really considering is those three options. Let me just add on option number one, and it's not necessarily the first option, it's just option number one, the way we're listing it. Um, we have a list of abutters to that property, a fairly extensive list, both residents and commercial. And all the resident lists, people have received a letter under my signature indicating that there's no plans, definitely. We haven't firmed up anything. We're not moving ahead with this, but we are talking about it and we want them to know that. And can contact me. They have my email address and can contact me. Allison, excuse me, John Cummings hasn't been able to access the meeting, so if you could help him out, that'd be great. So I have proceeded in doing just that. I have an appointment, was supposed to be today. It's now going to be on Thursday, and another one. Paul, you have indicated that you would like to talk to somebody, and what I'd ask is I sent the list to you. If there are any people you know or feel comfortable that you'd like to contact, please let me know. And then I can put your name by that. And and all the ones that are vacant, I'm going to be contacting them all. I also will be receiving phone numbers, so I'm going to follow up with everybody on the list. So it's just very, very important that they know and they should feel comfortable that we are going to keep them in the loop all the way along. And that would be true of any property that we're talking about, is that we're going to do that. But that is where we're proceeding on that. Any comments?
I don't have a comment. I just have a question. Have we made contact? I know you reached out to the residential abutters as well as commercial. Any feedback from commercial, not one specific property? I think that's the one that sort of that's the keys to the kingdom.
That's a great question. There has been initial contact with one of the abutters, but it's too early for me I can't comment because I know nothing. So I think probably at our next meeting, we're going to have more information, but Nora and Molly are contacting the immediate thing, commercial enterprises, and so that is in the process. But we're a little early for any reaction from them. Obviously, that would entail a negotiation, and we have to be careful of that if and when we can have a negotiation. So thanks, Nancy. So everybody is being contacted. That's to answer your question. Anyone else? So I've asked the question about using the matrix. Sounds like that wasn't overly helpful. It certainly wasn't for me. And secondly, I think we're looking at three options. Do those three still make sense to you all?
You want to just state the three?
Yeah.
We're all in agreement.
Say that again.
So you're talking about behind the Starbucks, the Deerfield Field, and the FS1 location where it is now.
Exactly. Those are the three that we're sort of settled on last time, and I'm not hearing that. Do we want to add any others? I know. Go ahead.
Sorry there was one interesting comment that I read relating to replacing the town hall with FS1. I don't know if you saw that. That I read that relatively recently. I mean,
Yes.
and it was based on combine the. It's an excellent thought. It just the cost of demolishing town hall, relocating everybody is a little it's going to be cost prohibitive, but that was, I think, probably the last option, an option that we really didn't consider all that much, but that went out there. But I think practically that is not going to work in the time frame that we have as well.
Yeah, Peter, Kathy Wallace sent a very helpful email, I thought, which you have received, that email, which you're referring to, and you've seen my responses to it. It was extremely helpful, and as I indicated to her, there are many of the issues on there are going to need to be addressed, and we're probably going to need some professional advice in some of those. But she also mentioned that the town hall, police station area. I know I walked that land, was very interested in it. I agree with you. The issue is the cost.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if the town
Exactly.
was so upset about the cost last
Yeah.
time, this would be exorbitant. It'd be
Oh,
quite
yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
There's also sort of a political concern there too, because it's a historic building, and I think there'd be a lot of sentimental value around that.
Yeah, and I'm not in favor of this. However, I just wanted to throw it out there for those that maybe didn't see the email. This was an option that
Interesting,
we hadn't all considered, during our proceedings. So that was it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it was helpful. And I also thought, using the land in front of the police station might be, a brand new police station might be appropriate combined with that. But that again would probably mean work to the new police station and the land there. I just think it'd be extremely prohibitively expensive to do that. And we did mention a little bit at that meeting, but I know Kathy sent that as a recommendation. Anyone else?
Yeah, Ford, and I just
Yeah,
want to be
Ken.
clear. I think we talked about this in the last meeting, but just to be clear, when we talk about prohibitively expensive, we're not only talking about the demolition cost, but then, and again, I might be stating the obvious here, but then we're essentially creating the need to build a new town hall, if I'm understanding correctly. Okay.
Yeah, Ken, you're absolutely right.
So Ford, I did have one quick comment, actually a question for Chief Lund, because this did come up before the town hall, and I might not be remembering where I heard the question asked, but I think that it's not enough space, right? Because they need training in the back. So I thought it was ruled out a while ago for that reason. And Chief, I don't know if you want to comment or tell me if I am incorrect, but that's just what I'm remembering.
Yeah, it led to a lot of issues with parking and an apron out front. It wasn't really feasible.
Thank you.
Any other
So
comments?
site-wise, expense-wise, it sounds like a great idea, but based on everything we just talked about, there's no way that would work. I've moved a building and I'm on my property, and that was in the cheap, but I can't imagine, if for sentimental purposes that Paul mentioned, to move a brick building, and it has been done, it would be exorbitantly expensive, and that building doesn't in any way, shape, or form meet any kind of handicap accessibility code as it is right now. So you'd have to pull the whole thing apart anyway. So it's out as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So it sounds like we'll keep the three in front of us for now, as explore what we're going to do, and that will have some effect on going to the town meeting. I'd love to have something on that May town meeting. So be some studies that might have to be done for those three, but I think we're a meeting away from being able to have enough information on that. So if that's where we are, we'll keep those three alive, unless there's anything else that somebody wants to add.
Can I just add one thing, Ford?
You can do anything you want.
I feel like it's been we've gotten a nice comprehensive list of the abutters, but since this is a public meeting, anybody that is listening in on it, if they feel like they should be listed as an abutter, or if they're close to being an abutter and they have a concern with one of these three sites, better to let us know as soon as possible if they have questions about it.
Exactly.
We'd want to hear from people sooner than later. So if there's one of the three, and for some reason, whether you live near there or you have a concern, near there, we would love to hear from you.
And also on our listening, on our session where we're going to have a conversation at the end of this week, I hope we have a good attendance for that. It's going to be, it's not really, if the committee is there, obviously that'd be great. All the committee, and then we're going to call a meeting to do that. But it's going to be a conversation. It's not, and the more information that we receive, the better, because
Right.
that's going to help us do our job. And I think it's more informal than these meetings, which we have community participation at the end of the meeting, and then we acknowledge it at the next meeting. But thank you very much. Anything else on agenda one?
You got a question just in follow-up about what's the best way to contact the committee if somebody wants to do what Paul just suggested. So maybe you should explain how to do that. I think it's probably through email, but
Yeah, it's really an email, and I don't have I can't memorize that in the top of my head. Maybe Molly can talk about it. It's FS1 at Molly. Can you jump in on that?
Molly, maybe you can drop that email address in the chat
I
for the
was just
attendees
gonna
as
do
well.
that. Yep, I'll drop it in the chat. It's fs1@westwoodma.gov.
And it is on our website. If you go to the website, you'll see it there. Just let us know, and we will respond back to you pretty quickly. Thank you. Agenda item number 2, which is a continued discussion on the operational programmatic needs for FS1. And remember, this is a command station, so the needs are larger than if you at a FS2 you would have that. And some people think, well, you're dealing with this again. We've already talked about it. I think more is better than less in this regard, because when you finally get down to a building that is designed, which we are not at, it's designed based on those programmatic needs. And I've said this before, as I look at fire stations, and I'm fairly familiar personally with several close ones, but just knowledge of them, they're all designed very similarly. Outside, not so, but inside, they all have very similar needs. So when I listen to people saying, well, we have to cut this or we cut that, we're cutting a programmatic need. We need to understand what need that is, and is it something that really isn't there? So I'm asking the chief, is the assistant chief there on? I don't see his name, Steve.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's here.
Okay, if you both would lead a discussion again on what those needs are and have us be able to react to them. And we're not talking about the space and square footage now, we're talking about the specific programmatic need. Floor is yours, chief.
Okay, so we've all talked about the apparatus floor and whether it's 4 bays drive-through, 5 bays off the front. We need to be able to store the equipment we have inside. And then we spoke about the admin spaces.
Before you, if any one of you, chief, it's all right, we can interrupt you. But what I'm thinking about also is when you look at the bays, it's how many bays are we going to need? And I assume that's going to be based on the type of building that we're building, but you need access front and maybe even back would be preferable. Also, you need space around each vehicle to work on those vehicles. And our vehicles that I know of are getting larger and larger as we get new ones. So any comment on that?
Yeah, so the height of the building, the trucks are taller than ever. On each side of the truck, you need about, I would say 5 feet between each vehicle, maybe a little bit more, depending if you have columns supporting the ceiling, depending on how the structure is built. That's going to depend on, is it a 1-story building? Is it a 2-story building? And then off the back of that is where the decon space would be. So now the depth of the station would need to be deeper if it was not a drive-through. If it was a drive-through, the decon space could be off to the side. Colin, anything else I'm missing here? I just
You've had a long night, I know.
No, nothing specific you're missing, but if you think of the size of the ladder truck, you're talking it's 50 feet wide. And then in terms of space on either side of the truck, I'd say 5 feet per truck is a good thing because you need space for the door to swing open, for getting on and off the apparatus while in the building. That's space that we'd like to keep free of any storage. Currently at the station, that's really what we use a lot of that space in between our trucks for storage, just simply because we don't have enough room for them as we sit. But to your point, Chief, that's exactly, we'd be looking to kind of maintain at least that 5 feet on either side of each truck for that reason. I know you were getting into the decon thing and I jumped in there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
But you also have, like you have a boat, you have a plow, you have, you have your cars, command cars and all that. Preferably, I would assume you'd want them inside in a bay.
everything that we use, like today, if I needed to go get a boat and it was outside, it would take us an hour to clean it off to get to you. If we had a recall and we needed another car and it's outside, basically useless to us on a day like today. So, and we, we do have space downstairs that gets some of the vehicles inside, our spare engine and our spare ambulance. And we try to cram the cars in. I was looking at the station today, and they have the boat and cars and spare cars, and everything's moved around and crammed in there. And it really delays response when you have to do that on a day like today.
Can I just ask a really quick question? Is there apparatus that you need that you're not currently keeping at FS1? Like, is there anything that's housed at FS2 that really needs to be at FS1?
The way we run the squad truck it would be very beneficial to have that at Station 1. We have the staffing there to get on it. And then, but the height and the length just wouldn't allow us to have it at Station 1.
So that's used, correct me if I'm wrong, is that used for brush fires?
Used for brush fires, but also it hasn't been delivered yet. It's replacing our old one, which is somewhat in service. We'll only use that one for brush fires, but the new one is all-wheel drive, and that's what we would be running in a snowstorm, if we were having flooding, stuff like that.
Okay, I'm just thinking proximity to hail reservation. Yep. Okay,
yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that.
It was interesting, last night between 7:30 and about 10 of 8, you were outside of my window here at my residence, and not you guys, but your department was, and you did a great job, and we had our men here helping you get through the snow, but so I know how hard you all probably worked last night. That pretty much, any other questions on the bays?
Chief, can you talk about the storage needs like on the apparatus bay? I know having like EMS equipment closer to the ambulances where it goes. Is there anything else that like it would be helpful to store on the apparatus, not in that 5-foot zone, but anywhere else?
Yeah, so we'd have to store our spare hose, ice melt, any other, tools that we might use around the station. What am I missing, Colin?
Brooms, squeegees, all our spare equipment. Right now, all our spare equipment is in the basement, simply because we don't have the room up near the apparatus floor. So if a tool breaks, they want to go grab a spare one. It's tucked away somewhere downstairs where we'd like to have that space. The one thing I wanted to add specific to EMS is coming down the road at us too. We're looking at we're no longer going to be able to use the hospital for controlled substances. We're going to be required to maintain our own controlled substance Pyxis machines here, and that needs to be in a locked room with proximity to the ambulances for that reason, because it is a controlled substance, so it's licensed that's something that is coming down the road to us as well. So we need to keep that in our front of brain when thinking about how we're
Right.
designing this.
It might not happen overnight here, but there's a big push towards community medicine where rather than going to a urgent care, rather than going to an ER, our medics would come to your house and treat you for minor things. There's a big push nationwide, and I see that popping up around Massachusetts, and that's not going to happen overnight, but it is something to look at in the future.
Yeah. Does your hose storage, does the hose need to be hung, or how do you handle the hose storage?
It's rolled and it's on a rack. And then when we have a fire or we use it, we hang it in the hose tower to dry and then put the spare hose on the vehicles.
But the answer is you need a hose tower to hang it if you.
There is other options. They have racks that you can do it out lengthwise, so it's not rolled. There are other options, but
So what are you doing now at FS1?
we have a hose tower.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned, if we can move on from that to decontamination space. Talk to us a little bit about the type of space that you foresee needing.
So the way that works is you come back from a fire, you get off the truck, you go into an area, take your gear off and put it in the extractor. And then you'd go into the next room where you would take off your uniform, put that in the gear washer. It would be great if there was a shower on that level. Now you don't have to go back upstairs contaminated. And then a small locker room where everybody could keep a t-shirt and a pair of shorts or something. And then you also have a gross decon area for so we go to a house and get covered in bodily fluids. You want to go in there and be able to get all that off. And so it's kind of like a corridor, a decon corridor, where you go from hot to cool.
Yep. So it sounds like could be a 3-room process.
Yes.
To do that. And
Yes.
Okay. You have go ahead, anyone? SCBA storage and equipment also. It's not necessarily in the bay, but in that area, it's part of your operational.
Yeah, so like at Station 2, we have an SCBA room. It's got a sink to clean the SCBA. It has a compressor because we need to fill the bottles. And it's, again, behind a closed door because you're putting air into it, and it just needs to be filtered air, and you really don't want that out on the apparatus floor with the trucks and where everything else is. So another room, like, doesn't have to be huge, but you need another room just to take care of your stuff there.
That is some sizable equipment too. Recharging of the bottles, it involves a compressor with stored air that we use upon returning from a call to refill our air bottles to prepare them for the next call. So it's not like a closet-sized machinery. It's a full room type machinery. Plus, that's the type of room that we would also do our SCBA maintenance. So if someone breaks a regulator or breaks any part of their SCBA, we can try to fix it right there in that room.
And I've been asked, can you just use the one that's at Station 2? The process, there's 3 bottles you can fill over there. It takes about 10-15 minutes each. If we go through 30 bottles, you're looking at a long time before we're back in service. Plus, then you have to have everything go to Station 2 to begin with. So it's just not an efficient operation at all to just use it out of one station.
Your turnout gear right now is in your bay, right in the main floor, and right next to the trucks. And what do you need for storage of your turnout gear?
So that would probably be not in the decon corridor, but at the end of it, so we could have our spare gear in there. So like you take off your dirty gear, you go in, you go through, and then you get showered, and then your other gear would be in a separate room away from the trucks, and you could have a clean set that you bring out and put next to the truck for your next call. So you'd need a room with lockers for everyone stationed at that station.
And how many lockers? You're gonna need a lot of lockers, right? Because you might only have 6, 7 people on duty or so, but you need lockers for everybody else because if you have a storm like you did last night, you brought in extra people. The lockers have to be there for each personnel?
Yes. So, 7 times the 4 shifts is 28. And then
Right.
Right now I don't have a locker. I keep it in my car. It would be nice to have lockers for everybody that's at the station. Our EMS coordinator, they don't. Everybody keeps it in their car because we just don't have the lockers for everybody right now.
Right.
That's what they do for
Additionally,
a call fire department. What do you, this is,
well, to that point, Ford, when we put on a recall during busy hours or times like storms, things like we're currently under, when people come back to work, typically they try to keep a set of gear at station 1 because that's where we recall our members to, station 1, not necessarily station 2. So even if you're assigned to station 2, we can recall members into station 1. So it's nice to have a set of gear here for them.
okay. You touched on EMS responsibilities. Triage room, do you need a room like that?
Absolutely. Just providing privacy for someone who comes in having an emergency or just wants their blood pressure checked or whatever, to have a room to go there and give them privacy. Right now we do it right by the front door. So you walk in and you're having chest pain and we're putting leads on you and someone else walks in and you're right there. So you need to have a room to provide privacy. It could double as a storage room for supplies as well. So.
Okay. I sort of feel like I'm leading this right now, but let's talk about your department command staff, offices, and what you need,
So currently there's,
in an FS1.
yep, currently there's me, the assistant chief, EMS coordinator, and fire prevention officer, and then the office manager. In the old design, we had 5 offices for everyone. Talking about it, could we do the chief and I? Oh, I'm sorry, and then so that's just admin. We were talking about maybe changing the way we were thinking. We could have a big room with a couple desks in it. And then if we had a conference room or something, that way people could then use that to have their, if someone needs counseling or if someone messed up on a call and you need to discipline them, we'd have a private place to do that. So we talked about maybe getting away from the 5, but the chief, the assistant chief would definitely need their own offices.
And your EMT coordinator needs a separate office, I would think.
Yeah, it could be in a room, like I said, but he has to have a spot to keep the HIPAA materials. It would be nice to have that in a locked room. But we're trying to come up with different ways of handling this. And
Yep.
so.
But these are needs
Chief,
that you have
just
to have, so go ahead.
Just to summarize because we had talked about this before, when we look at the needs of the department, you've certainly identified several different positions that need private space to do their work, you being one of them, the assistant chief, EMS, but, in keeping up with, what I see as the modern trend of designing this type of managerial or administrative space these days, rather than giving everyone that has a need for dedicated privacy to do their work an individual closed office with 4 walls and a door, we had a conversation about the possibility of, is there a way to do this more flexible so that everybody gets a dedicated workspace that they can use and that they need and that meets all of their needs? And that's going to be a little bit different depending on who that person is. But then you can flex the kind of conference room space that everybody needs on an occasion. So everybody doesn't need a space to meet with someone in their private office. Everybody's not doing group meetings at the same time. Everybody needs a confidential space to do their work, and then some type of flex space that can be shared for the people when they need it to have a confidential conversation or meeting or that type of thing with people, which could get away from some of the individual offices and still meet everybody's needs for the confidentiality and the privacy that they need to do their jobs. And, that's something that we have to flesh out a little more. But as I understood from speaking to you and Colin, certainly is a realistic possibility as a way to design what you need in that managerial space.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say, just wasn't doing a good job of trying to say it.
No, you're doing it. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need a radio room. Does that have to be a separate room from some of the spaces we've already talked about?
The equipment there, if something happened at dispatch and we had a radio room and we needed to run our own operations, you need a spot where we could do that. Kind of like a backup command center.
Yeah.
So we would need a space. Could it be shared with something else? Probably. I'd have to see, I'd have to look into that. But it would definitely have to have all the radios, our fire alarm equipment, everything that we would need to be self-sufficient if something was to happen to dispatch.
And when I think of, dispatch, you're doing all the dispatch for FS2 also, correct?
We would be if something happened to the dispatch at the police station, yes.
Yeah. Okay. This is a sort of who takes care of the station, keeps it clean and does all that? I'm thinking you need a janitor's room or something.
We do everything.
Sounds like a small deal, but it isn't.
No, we need room for supplies, paper towels, toilet paper, cleaning supplies. Because we take care of the station ourselves.
Yep.
It's part of the daily duties is cleaning. So yeah, we need janitor closets.
Okay. And that falls in line with what Molly talked about. You need storage space, and everything that we're talking about in each of these areas, you have to have storage space.
Yeah, right now it's on the first floor we have one closet, and upstairs we have no closets. So
okay. Let's talk about training. What do you need for training? When I think about training for a fire department or a police department or the military or anything, training goes on all the time because you have to have your men and women ready for any event, no matter what it is. And you need to train for it so when they get there, they know what they're doing. So, one of the things I think probably talk about a classroom, desk, and you need desks there, which could be movable because you need floor space for working with mannequins or people.
Yeah, so we do training every day. We have an EMS and a fire training schedule that we do every single day. The big trainings that we do would be when we have M&M rounds, or if we bring in a class. You can't pay for someone to come 4 days in a row, so we hit every shift. You have to have them come in one day, so we need to have the ability to have the whole department there. So you're talking 48 people. And then, like you said, we wouldn't want it to be static where you couldn't move the desks or anything. It would just be kind of like the EOC is at the police station, where we have rolling tables and rolling chairs, and we could push that stuff out of the way. Do work on mannequins for EMS training. The other day they were doing firefighter CPR. So you have someone down on the ground, and we're training how to drag them out, and then doing CPR. So you need space to do all of this stuff.
Yep.
And preferably not on the apparatus floor where we're trying to not be as much.
Well,
Right.
you're
I would
doing it
also-
now on the apparatus floor, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would add that we missed some opportunities as well, because there are opportunities out there to have the fire academy come in and conduct a class where they won't do that unless you have a dedicated room that they can fill out of X amount of people. So we don't schedule many classes from the fire academy. In fact, we send most of our people out. So instead of actually, providing an opportunity for people to come in and train, including our own members, and getting all our members trained, we have to find spaces in other communities for them to go to, because we don't currently provide the appropriate space required by the state when they put on classes.
And it's huge to do it as a group rather than sending people, I went this day, you went this day, you went this day. If we're all getting the same message, we're all doing it the same way, it's a huge advantage. And that's why it's immensely important to have it done in our place.
Hey,
Well,
Chief,
it's team building, number one.
I got a
You know,
question for
Yep.
just about the training. So at one point, you guys said that because everybody's an EMT paramedic, you needed X amount of training a year. It was like 1,500 hours.
Yeah.
What was the number?
I'd have to look it up, to be honest with you,
But it
but
was more than 1,000 hours, right?
yes.
Yeah.
In a year. So seems that when we figured, I think it was like 1,500, and it came to like almost 30 hours a week that you guys need to train to maintain your EMS paramedic status. Right? That's the requirement.
It's up there, yeah. I don't know the number off the top of my head either.
I'll look
20
it
to
up.
30 hours. How's that? Big range. So it's not like a small amount of training. It's a tremendous amount of training.
No, like I said, we do several hours every day, and we have it in the book, and it's laid out what we're going to do every day, and it's documented, and so it's not a small amount of time.
I think it's also important to emphasize that in addition to the regular training that you do, whether it's daily or weekly to keep your certification, that you're currently doing on site, maybe not in the space that you want to do it, that there actually is, and I was surprised by this, a substantial additional amount of all department training that you need to do. Like we've heard a lot of conversations about the need for a room where everyone can be in because you need to do training, and well, how often does that happen? That happens at least once a month. So there's at least a once a month where you need to get together as an entire department to hold training, which right now you don't have the ability to do in the fire station. That's not an insignificant frequency. And having to find a location outside of the fire station where you could do that, it is far from ideal. And I know that for one, I didn't appreciate how frequently that type of training was occurring. And Colin, you made a good point that in addition to just the inconvenience and the added difficulty to running the department of having to do that, there's training that you guys need that you can't do. So you need to go to other places, to other departments, not infrequently having to pay other places and other departments to host you because you can't do it on site. And that's a cost. It's not an insignificant cost to running our fire department right now that would go away if you were able to do more of that training in-house. And again, we talked about when we get to the point of designing this fire station, when we do that looking at flex ways to do that, to looking at a way to design a flex space that can be used for multiple purposes, maybe even inside and outside of the fire department, so that it gives you the space you need, but is done in a design fashion so that you can get multiple uses out of the same space.
100%.
Yeah. One last thing on that too is proximity to our vehicles. If we go to another location, it's often difficult because you got to park your vehicles away from, like the library, for instance. We can't really park in the library parking lot. And I use this example a lot when we have these types of trainings, because then we impede other citizens from being able to park. And I end up getting a phone call from the librarian who very nicely asked me to see if there's something we can do to move our truck. So oftentimes we park across the street. But really the name of the game for us is getting to those trucks and out the door quickly. So while we're doing these training, it's nice to have the room right next to our vehicles so we can get on the truck and go at a moment's notice. That's really what we're trying to achieve here.
The other possibility would be at a different site with ample parking. That training room could be used as a public space. It wasn't designed that way in the last one because of parking issues.
Right.
So it could be a shared space. I know the town is looking for more meeting space.
Part of your training is fitness for your men and women in the department. And I assume the fitness is not one person or two people in a room. You're trying to build, obviously it's team building again, so they might have some competition amongst each other. What kind of a fitness facility? I know what you have now, but what kind of a fitness facility do you need?
You need one with ample room. Like you said, it's funny how they make it competitive so that they're all working out together, and it's team building. It's good for your mental health, all of that. So what we have right now, we have a few machines. I don't know what the size of that room is, but they're crammed in there pretty tight, and there's not a lot of room to do other stuff in that room, such as they do a lot of the CrossFit type training, and they'll be down on the lower apparatus floor working out down there.
Right.
And that's a spot that doesn't have any primal vents or anything that get rid of the exhaust or any of the contaminants. So that's not ideal either.
Well, can I just go back to the training question?
Of course you
training
can.
issue. Yeah. So, Chief, I was wondering if you're doing an in-house training, and say you have 8 people being trained, could you have 4 of those people that are actually on shift, and if there was a call, they would have to, leave the training, so you kind of they're doing both, double duty kind of.
Yes, that we do that. That's the majority of how we do it. On shift is, all right, we got to stop, go do the call, come back, and then continue.
Okay.
When we have rounds, the med control doc is there. They'll pause the training and wait for them to come back. So
Okay. So if they need to do offsite, obviously you have to backfill that person.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. And the other point is a lot of the classes that these guys are going to, they're paying their own money to go to classes. Whereas if we were able to bring things in, if we hosted it, we'd get a much better rate, and guys wouldn't be paying out of their own pocket to go get trained.
If they're doing that, do we reimburse them after they do the training?
What?
Really?
I have $12,000 in my training budget. It only goes so far.
All right, well, that's another subject. Let's take a look at housing for living conditions for your personnel.
Sorry, Ford,
you-
Harry has his hand up. I don't know if you can see hands being raised.
Well, that was Harry Davis. He can jump in. The committee can jump in anytime they want. So
Thanks I was just waiting for a break there. So I just want to, I think it's awesome, getting this feedback from Chief Lund and from Colin. I just look for, if I remember correctly from our last meeting, one of our more kind of objective, tangible action items was going back to the architecture firm to see if they could essentially build what Chief Lund and Colin are saying they need, but on a smaller scale. And so I guess my question being, we could talk about this after the fact, how do we get that process rolling? And again, that might be taking us too far off track right now, but
I'm guessing, Harry, that really comes down when we take this information that we're talking about and we're trying to also educate the residents on this information, which is probably the very important part of this.
Of course.
But that's what an architect takes. Well, once you sit down and you then just sit down with the architect, and they did that in the last exercise. But they sit down with an architect and then they design what you need. When you look at the places that we're looking at, two of the places that we're looking at could afford a different looking building than you could put in at the current site on High Street FS1. There, you could, instead of building a 2-story or full 2-story, you might be able to build a 1-story, and that's going to be a totally different design, but it's going to encompass everything we're talking about. So I think it has to wait till we get further down the road when we can go out and hire an architect to work on this stage of FS1.
I got a question, and it's just a follow up. And Molly, maybe you already have this prepared, or Chief. Everything that we just went through, and not to put you on the spot in a meeting, but is there a list of all the requirements that you need for the apparatus bay that you can share with us, and we can post it on the FS1 page so that anybody that's interested could see the requirements for an apparatus bay? Everything we just talked about, the space for the trucks.
There's the document that we gave, I think it was your first meeting, which is that list of programmatic needs. What I've been doing during this meeting is taking notes into broad categories. And so once I finalize this document and share it with the committee, then we can put that on the website.
All right, because the chief and Colin have been up all night working, so not your sharpest moment, but you're still crushing it. But I just want to make sure that we didn't miss anything, so that we have it documented. Like we need, X amount of space for confined or for decontamination. We need X amount of space for, X truck, 5 feet on each side so you can open the doors. Scotty Air Pack, cleaning and filling, all that, what we just talked about. I'd like to see that actually in a list.
John, I think that's a great idea, and thank you for that. And when I'm going down, I put a list together for myself for this meeting, and that's why I have sort of organized. And I have seen a list that we got from the fire department that does have, and actually has some square footage down there, but I think it probably applied to the previous.
So just to, if I can just, sorry, just to jump in really quickly as a follow-on to John's comment, I still would love to see us get to a comparison document where we show what the needs are and then compare it to how it's currently being handled. Because like we said in a couple of meetings, everyone had issues with the fact that the building was 2.5 times the size of the current building. And I think the current building, the current FS1, is undersized. I think we really need to document, I think the training room is one example. And we talked about, record storage being another one, and the, apparatus, if we're not able to fit everything at FS1, what are we currently doing now? In medical storage, right? Like medical supplies being stored in a hallway, not in a room. So I think that would be valuable. I don't know if anyone else agrees or disagrees.
I think it's a good idea, but I mean, my understanding, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, is the specifics that you guys are all talking about, the difference between what they have now and what they need, is completely dependent on the location, because that dictates what the design of the building looks like, which very much affects that, square footage number. If your sleeping quarters are going to be on the same floor as your apparatus bay, or if they're going to be upstairs, dictates not only their size, but how many bathrooms you need and where you need them. What we decide and the department decides they need for individual offices versus flex space, dictates that. So yeah, I think eventually that will be, this is what they have and this is the difference between what they have and what we're recommending in the new design. But it can't effectively, one of the things that I understand now from all the discussions is that can't effectively be done until you know the location and the basic framework of the building. Do you need stairs? Do you not need stairs? You know, how many, do you need one broom closet because you're on one level, or do you need two? So I don't think we can do that before we make a few more decisions.
Well, I'm thinking about the training room. I mean, I will tell you that it was like the weekend, like the first weekend in September, I was hearing that there's a training room designed for 6 people, you know, with 48 seats. Well, I think people still didn't understand what it was. So, I mean, that's why I think it needs to be part of it. But at some point. So
Yeah.
I'm fine if it's down the road. I just think it's
Yeah,
relevant.
I don't think it makes sense to do it piecemeal. I think it has to be done. I agree with you 100%. And yeah, there are probably some things that you could do it now, but it just seems to make more sense to me to wait until we can do it as a comprehensive thing, and then talk about all the needs, the training rooms,
Yeah.
on top of everything else.
I agree with you,
And-
Jody, except we do need to know what the requirements are so that we can adjust and or manipulate them into what we are going to have. But we need to know what the requirements are. Like if it's a 50-foot truck, you can't put it in a 40-foot space, right? There's a certain requirement. And like triage. What ideal, but what could you go with? You know, like, but we need to know that there is a triage room. You know, like, so as far as, and you can use multiple rooms for different things, but we need to at least have a basic list of what we need to have so that we can arrange it in the best order possible.
Yeah.
Make sense?
It does, John, and that's exactly what we're doing in this exercise is we're going through the types of rooms that we need.
Right.
And I think Nancy's suggestion is a good one, and I understand what Molly's saying because the location, the property is going to tell us a lot more, so we can show the comparisons between keeping the station at FS1 on High Street or building it behind Starbucks or somewhere else that's a flat piece of property that's 5.1 acres, and so. And that in itself, if you look at a typically 1-story compared to a 2-story, there's huge savings in there because you don't need elevators and stairs and your sprinkler system, et cetera, is just a different component. And the number of bathrooms changes,
100%.
as Molly said. So I think both these suggestions are good ones. And I think once we get a little further down the road, and that may be after we've been sort of finished this job, and then the selectman keeps us on to continue our work. That's really where we're going to get into those nuts and bolts. Right now, we spent a lot of time educating ourselves, and I think we've come a long ways. Now we need to finalize our recommendation for the spot, where it's going to be, and then we need to do the surveys of the land and do all that. So we're getting there. I want to finish what we're doing.
If I may, so, and this may be more from Molly, like an administrative aspect. So it's really, you just said like, hey, that's what we're doing here. We're discussing these needs, but are these being documented somewhere that, for like public education that people can jump on the website and see and kind of educate themselves on? Because again, discussing it's great, but if people are like, I couldn't attend a meeting or, I kind of doing something else.
Yeah, I think that's why this suggestion was made is we need to put a lot of this information that we're talking about on the website.
Absolutely.
And we need to populate that website. And it needs to be an active website. We've only been at this for
2 months.
No, we start January 1.
Well, all the December pre-meetings too.
Yeah, but we really started January 1. So, we've been at this for 4 weeks. We've done pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
So let me just finish this a little bit. Housing for personnel. What are the needs? We need, rooms, bathrooms, day room, kitchen, et cetera. Could you, dining space, could you go through that, either Steve or Colin?
Yeah, so if you have, so we talked about the admin side. Now operations side, you have a deputy. He would need an office. he runs the shift. He does
Well,
all the
Steve,
reports. He
I'm
does
going to
everything.
interrupt you for a minute if I can. I'm talking about the resident side. It's not
Yep.
the office side. It's where do you sleep and eat?
Yeah, that would be on that side with them.
Okay.
And then, so right now, 7 is the most we would have at Station 1 currently. So you need 7 dorms. You could put a second bed in them for overflow and stuff like that. I think you should probably have 1 or 2 extra for future growth. But like we staffed up for the storm, we need a place for people to rest. So start with 7 and go from there, how much extra you want to build in. And then you need private bathrooms for showering and everything. You could have, you know, a couple private and then one with maybe a couple shower stalls in it. We have a diverse workforce now. So you need those things. And then, so the kitchen, well, it's not just the staff there that eats, we go over and eat as well. So now you get 12 people over there around a kitchen table or using the kitchen for stuff. And then the day room, which is where they would rest and you know, congregate. You need seating for the 7 people there.
Because
Am I
this is their
mistaken?
home.
It's their home.
The
It's
home
absolutely
away
their
from
home.
home.
They're
Right.
there for 24 hours. From the time they get there in the morning till 4 or 5 o'clock at night, they're doing stuff. And then after that, they're, you know, responding to calls and have some downtime when they can. So yeah, they need to be able to be comfortable.
Great. So I think we've covered a lot of it, and people jump in if they want. One thing we haven't mentioned, though, is a vehicle maintenance bay for maintenance facilities, and the importance of that. If you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I can't express how important that is. To send a truck out, you lose it for a week, a month. It's crazy when the mechanic could have something done in a couple hours, but we send a truck out and lose it for, like I said, a month because it's in line at their facility and it's just so inefficient. Plus, the cost for service elsewhere, it's up near $300 an hour. We're not paying the mechanic even close to that. So in the long run, this pays for itself over and over and over again.
And I think that's an important point that, you know, if I understand where you are now, not having the maintenance bay requires you to send the trucks out when they need maintenance to someplace else that can do it. And that impacts your department in 2 ways. Number one, it impacts it, and then that particular piece of equipment is usually out of service for much longer than it takes to actually do the repair that it needs because it's going someplace else. It's dependent on someone else's schedule. You might have to wait in line till they get to it. And then you're paying someone a lot of money to do that. Where if you had the physical space to do it in-house, you have a mechanic that could work in-house at substantially less expense than it's now costing you to do. So when we look at the overall cost, does it cost more to build a fire station with a mechanic's bay? Yes. But over the course of the years that you're using it, you're getting a good amount of that cost back
Right.
in the maintenance fees that you're saving by never having to send this equipment out again. And we talked about coming up with an estimate of what that would be. And I think you guys are going to work on that so that we can kind of put some numbers on that.
It could also be used for storage, you know, when it's not doing maintenance, it might be able to be used for storage. And it's being able to house those vehicles inside that spot.
Absolutely. We could put the plow truck in there and then when something needs to be worked on, we move it and then put it back in when we're done. The other thing that's crazy about the dealers now is, it's by the hour, but they have per job. So if they look at a problem and they say, this is a 10-hour job, if it takes them 2 hours, we're still getting charged 10 hours. The cost is nuts. So.
So have we missed anything? Is there anything that, committee, chief, assistant chief, have we missed anything that we need to consider that's important from a problematic need point that has to be in a fire station?
Something the chief had was talking about the operation needs for the shift commander, the lieutenant, and then ambulance, paramedic report writing. Can you guys
Right.
just jump in on that?
Yeah, so that's on the operations side of it. The shift commander would need an office with file cabinets and his computer and a space to do all his reports, counsel if he has to. And then we need a space for the lieutenants to do their reports and a place for the EMTs to write all their reports. And that one, we can't violate HIPAA regulations, so it needs to be private in some way. How we come up with that, we can work around, but it does need to be private in some way because we're dealing with personnel records of people's medical problems.
Yeah, I like to think of this particular building as two separate buildings because it's a fire headquarters. It's not just a regular fire station. A lot of people think of a fire station as just like what we have in Islington, which is a substation. It's just there for fire department operations. This is actually our business office as well as a fire station. So you have two sides of the house that we're trying to accommodate with this new station. You have the chief and myself and the EMS coordinator and fire prevention and our office manager on one side of the house. And then you have the day-to-day operations of the people that are actually out doing the work in the streets, the ones that are going to the calls. And those are two totally separate types of reports that need to be accounted for. They're doing the operational reports, which are NERIS is what we actually use now. Every time they respond to a call, there's a report generated for that. Sometimes there's several different reports. In the case of a medical, there's a NERIS report from the fire side, but there's also a medical record that's created. And that's what we're trying to provide space for the operations people to actually have an area to write their reports, for the shift commander to write his reports, for the lieutenant on the engine to write his reports, because he has some administrative function as well. On the other side of the house, there's, like I said, the chief, myself, the office manager. Then we have fire prevention EMS coordinator, who are not necessarily handling the day-to-day, moment-to-moment reports. We're more long-term reports. The chief is working with town hall quite frequently. That's the type of stuff that he's dealing on a daily basis. So there is a separation is really my main point in telling you this. There's two different types of operations going on.
And where are you storing all your records and all that right now?
Right now it's in the trailer out back near my office in the back parking lot.
All right. So if you think you need storage for these kinds of records, it sounds like that's important. And I don't know how long, I haven't seen that trailer. I haven't gone and looked at it. But I'm envisioning it jam-packed, and the trailer is probably not a good place to have those things. But that is a concern. And, some people say, well, let's copy it and put it on through technology. But that's easier said than done. So
that is more space that needs to be considered. Records retention. We keep all our files out there and locked away right now. But absolutely, that's something that we would incorporate into the new station.
I got two questions in that regard for this. All right.
Go.
Colin, is it required that you have paper backup, or can it be digital? And
it's still required. In some instances, it's still required for paper backup.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
permits,
secondly,
licenses.
Your ambulances are literally loaded with drugs that you need to store. Is there a requirement for keeping that locked up? And I don't even know what the term is.
Yeah, it's secure. Yes, absolutely. Those medications need to be in a locked cabinet. And I think going forward, something that the chief and I are keeping our eye on, I alluded to it a little bit earlier, is the storing of medication. We're actually going to have to store a lot more on site than we are currently, because the state's moving to a model where we manage our own medications versus doing a swap with the hospital, which is what we currently do now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll need to provide a locked room, or a Pyxis machine is what they call it, at the hospital. So we'll have to have one of those ourselves.
Yeah, right now, if they use a drug, they go down to the pharmacy with their report, the pharmacy in the hospital. They give them a replacement for what they use, and that's just a small amounts kept on the trucks in a locked case. But we're not gonna be able to have that option anymore.
So you're gonna have to keep basically a pharmacy in the fire station,
Correct.
or a storage pharmacy, that kind of.
Correct.
Right.
All right.
All right,
The
Chief.
sorry, one
Go-
more thing I mentioned is just, and I know I've mentioned it to this group before, is the INET. It's the town and schools IT network infrastructure currently housed in the fire station. It's not a big room. I think it's maybe 14 by 20 for everything that they need to have in there, but it would need to be built into the new station as well.
Good for you, Molly. Great.
Molly, I thought that part of our prior conversations, and I don't remember where we left it off, was that there was a possibility if the station was moved, that the INET, because it would have to be moved from where it currently is, wouldn't necessarily be attached to the fire station, that it might be moved someplace else. Specifically, you had talked about, or someone had talked about the possibility of attaching it to the police station, so it wouldn't be part of the fire station anymore. Is that still a possibility?
It's a possibility. It would just be you're going to pay for it as an addition to the police station or adding it as a room in the fire station. So either way, it needs to be moved. Where it goes is where it goes.
So we're gonna have to pay for it anyway.
Correct.
And isn't the IRNet requirement that it has to be 24 guaranteed
24/7
24
access for the
power
generator.
access?
Yeah. So police and fire is really the only place it can go.
And does the police station have a power source, the 24-hour?
Yeah. It has a
Yes.
24.
Okay.
All right. That was very helpful. And I like the idea is we need to put this information, this recording is going to be available, but I think having something on the website that people can go and click on and see all this information is critical. And I like the idea as we go down the road of having a comparison between what we have at FS1 and what we have at a different location or back at FS1. This is current location. So I think that's a great idea. If I can move along the meeting, and I haven't forgotten public participation, so I'm getting there. Approval of minutes for January 5, 2026. I'll accept the motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Any discussion, any changes?
This is about the meeting minutes.
Yes, sir.
I got two. One is that we voted to approve the minutes, but we didn't put that in the minutes. And any vote should be recorded in the minutes.
Correct.
And I didn't see it in there, and maybe I'm blind. And then at the very end, we have to find more information about FS1 steering committee, which is great. We want to put that out there, but I don't think that has to be part of our minutes. You know, it has a link on the bottom. I didn't know why we had that.
Committee, do you vote to accept amending the minutes to deleting the last part and adding the vote to approve the previous minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, now
Do
we'll
a
vote.
roll, 'cause we're
I
virtual.
think we have to do a roll call. No?
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Jody Petroselli,
Yes.
Ken Ayers, Peter Bean.
Didn't hear you,
Peter, are
Peter.
you there? Yep. Sarah Cantley,
Yes.
John Cummings,
Yes.
Harry Davis,
Yes.
Paul DeLay,
Yes.
Nancy James,
Yes.
and Ford Spalding, yes. Now we need to vote on the main motion, which was the approval of the minutes. And I'll
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the minutes with the amended, we just got through.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll poll the board. Jody Petroselli,
Yes.
Ken Ayers, Peter Bean. Peter?
He fell off.
Yeah, I don't think
He
he's
fell
here.
off.
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah
Peter
Cantley?
is in the attendees section. I think it looks like he got kicked out of the
I
panelist
see
section.
Peter. He just came on.
All right.
There.
Oh,
I'm back.
He's been here the whole time.
I have. I've been here virtually the whole time. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
no.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
Sarah
Just-
Cantley,
Just moved back in.
Yes.
John Cummings,
Yes.
Harry Davis,
Yes.
Paul DeLay,
yes.
Nancy James,
Yes.
and I, Ford Spalding. Thank you. Any other subjects that need to come up at this meeting?
No, are we all going to attend Thursday's meeting?
I'll get to that, but that's, it's going to be voluntary, but I'll get to that. Let's move on to, I'd like to ask for public and press comments or questions for the committee. If you keep them to approximately 2 minutes, that'd be great. And please understand that they will be responded to at our February 9th meeting, unless there's something we can quickly respond to now. And please provide your name and address. Any public or press? And Allison, if you can help me with that, if you see anybody.
There's a question in the Q&A.
Okay, could you read that?
Sure. It says it's from Fran Fusco, 20 Pine Lane. At the last meeting, I had asked when are we moving our firefighters out of that 6th station. It was stated to be a priority and would be discussed at this meeting. I did not hear my question brought up today. This should be prioritized as urgent.
Thank you. We are waiting on reports for the current condition of the station, and it's, I believe, Molly, correct me if I'm wrong, it is have been looked at either monthly or every other month, but there are reports that will be coming, and we have not seen those. So that will guide us. And you're absolutely right. If we have an emergency situation, we may need a town meeting to find other space for them. Part of our job in the month of February, which we're almost there, is that is our main subject for the month, is to discuss a location and what do we need to do, and then that could help us decide if we need to go to this May town meeting to do that. So that's a good question. Molly, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Nope, you captured it.
Okay.
Just a quick point of clarification, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Of course you can.
You had responded last month to the question, or last meeting to that question, that we would look at it in February. You didn't say this meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That made me feel better.
I'm glad.
Any others?
Kathy Wallace has her hand raised.
And there's a couple, there's another question in the Q&A.
Somebody bring that question up.
Sure, I can read that again. I can read that. It could be. It's a good job for me today.
Because I can't see it on mine.
No,
That's why
no.
I'm-
You know what? That's one qualification I can read. So Nancy Hyde. That's from Nancy Hyde, and she says, I recall that if INET is positioned at the police station, it would be placed over the vehicle bays. That area was meant to be reserved for long-term growth needs not anticipated when the police station was designed.
Okay.
So that's just a bit of information.
Yeah, thank you for that. We'll have to get back to you at the next meeting because I don't have that knowledge. Thank you.
Oh, and her address is 15 Martingale Lane.
Thanks, Nancy. Did I hear Kathy Wallace says something?
Yeah, her hand's raised.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, hi. Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane. As everybody knows, I'm really passionate about our fire department and this fire station project, and I just wanted to share a few observations about today's meeting. In my opinion, this process appears to be stalling. I was hoping we'd be further along in this process than we are right now, given that you're due to have a recommendation to the select board by March 1st, unless that date has changed. So I would suggest that perhaps maybe you meet more often. A second observation is it appears we're asking Assistant Chief McCarthy and Chief Lunt to repeat themselves over and over and over about the programmatic needs. I liked Nancy James's suggestion about a comparative document. I think something that might help the committee to move forward would be to take the original design for the station that was designed at 637 High Street, take all the elements of that design and put it, say, if it's on the first floor, if it's on one floor, do we need this station? And if it's a 2-floor station, do we need this? I don't think that would take somebody very long to do. And the other thing I had asked in my email was, has the committee received a scorecard from Vertex, the professionals who can evaluate the pros and cons of each site? Because I think you really need to do that to make an educated assessment. And finally, residents had expressed frustration, not me, but other residents, and this is in the vein of trying to get everybody to vote yes for this project when it finally comes along, is residents wanted to understand the longer term plan, which I know is beyond the scope of this committee. But I think this committee has to think about what you do and what you decide and how that impacts future options for the town, whether it's for a community center, et cetera, and what's happening with DPW, what will happen with town hall. So what option you choose takes away options for other things. So I really would love to see some quick progress on this, because it's an urgent need. And we really should be getting the firefighters out of there quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and thank you for caring. Any other people? Okay, just as a reminder, the FS1 Steering Committee resident conversation is going to be Thursday, January 29 at 7 p.m. It'll be a hybrid meeting. We'll be in the Westwood Library for in-person, and that's actually a small room, but it's the only room that can accommodate this. But it is hybrid, and I would say to the committee, could you please let Allison know if you intend to be there? It is at 7 p.m. And if you intend to be there or even online, because we're going to have to call a meeting, and that would be good if we have majority there. But and anybody on the committee that's there is free to help us answer questions or comments. So it's going to be a conversation, and it starts at 7 p.m. So please let Allison know what your plans are. Is there anything else to come for us? If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? I will poll the committee. Jody Petroselli,
You're on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Ken Ayers is not here. Peter Bean,
Yes.
Sarah Cantley,
Yes.
John Cummings,
Yes.
Harry Davis,
Yes.
Paul DeLay,
Yes.
Nancy James, and
Yes.
I am a yes. Thank you very much, and please be safe out there.
And congratulations to Ken Ayers, who's a brand new grandfather today.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
That's
Where he's
awesome.
at. He's at the hospital.
Doesn't get better.
No,
All right.
that's awesome.
See ya.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Oh,
Bye all.